Shabbos, 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 Shabbos soll sein jeden Shabbos. Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos auf der ganzen Welt. Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos soll sein, Shabbos auf der ganzen Welt. Join me! Yalla la 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 la, yalla la la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la la, yalla la yalla la la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la la, yalla la la la. Yontif, 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 Yontif soll sein jeden Yontif, Yontif soll sein, Yontif soll sein, Yontif soll sein, Yontif auf der ganzen Welt. Yontif soll sein, Yontif soll sein, Yontif auf der ganzen Welt. Yalla, yalla la 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 la, yalla la. Sholem, 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 Sholem. Soll sein jeden Sholem. Sholem soll sein, Sholem soll sein. Sholem auf der ganzen Welt. Sholem soll sein, Sholem soll sein. Sholem auf der ganzen Welt. Yalalai, 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 yalalai,
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. So good to be together, especially these last days of Passover and Shabbat. And as we're gathering together, to culminate this holiday of Passover, our sages saw that Passover happened on 3 levels: past, present, and future. Of course, the past, we tell the story at the Seder of the Israelites in Egypt and the liberation from Pharaoh. Present, we look at our own slavery, personally, inside, psychologically, the ways that people aren't respected their fullest dignity in the world in which there's bondage around us. And we ask the question and engage the question, how do we become more free? Shabbat, it's interesting, every Shabbat blessing, we always mention the Exodus from Egypt, even when it's not Shabbat, because there's a sense that being liberated, coming out of the narrow place, which is what Egypt Mitzrayim means in Hebrew, is really is the experience of Shabbat. It's being released. And that's what I really want to invite us, is to take a deep breath, be released. And then the third level is the Passover of the future, the final redemption. And it's really interesting. It's beautiful and perfect that last piece that Cantor Young led us in, Shabbos Zolzain, first talks about Sholem, peace for the Jews. First, it's for the Jews, and then it's for the whole world. And that's really what we hold in our Jewish consciousness, that freedom, redemption is for us as a people, but it's also for the world. And Passover then becomes this question about not only how do I work for my own liberation and for others' liberation around me, but how do I see my life as a larger pattern in history? A larger pattern in his history where there's multiple redemptions, not only Egypt, but the founding of the state of Israel after the Shoah. Incredible, another story from bondage to liberation. What will be that next dramatic liberation, and how do our lives begin to play one part in it? This is the place in Shabbat that we're here together, where we get to, from that spaciousness and that openness, begin to imagine and begin to dream. What is the world that we want to create? And can we look to Shabbat as a vision of what that perfected world can be? It's my pleasure to invite Norma Levinson to give us an introductory reading before we light candles. Just make sure to unmute yourself, Norma.
Where has this week vanished? Is it lost forever? Will I ever recover anything from it? The joy of life, the unexpected victory, the realized hope, the task accomplished. Will I ever be able to banish the memory of pain, the sting of defeat, the heaviness of boredom. On this day, let me keep for a while what must drift away. On this day, let me be free of the burdens that must return. On this day, Shabbat abide. Help me to withdraw for a while from the flight of time. Contain the retreat of the hours and the days from the grasp of frantic life. Let me learn to pause, if only for this day. Let me find peace on this day. Let me enter into a quiet world to stay on this day. Shabbat abide.
Beautiful. Thank you.
you.
We invite Donna Raskin to lead us in the lighting of candles. So if you have some Shabbat candles near you, you can light them while Donna leads us in the blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you. So there is another way of viewing Passover and Shabbat, in that they are states of awareness. That the Hasidic masters had this idea of our usual state of consciousness, how we are moving about in the world, is called mochin dikatnut, or small mind. We move around with our pictures of our things to do and what needs to happen and our perspective. And it's not to belittle our perspective, it is what it is, but it is small compared to what it could be. That freedom, that openness is about waking up. It's about waking up to a greater perspective, to seeing things more expansively, more deeply. And that's a state of awareness called mochin gadlut, or great mind, being able to be awake. It's this idea that we are actually walk through the world asleep most of the time. Yes, we are awake, but the prism by which we are viewing everything is almost like dream walking. What would it mean to wake up when we are already awake? What would it mean to wake up in this moment, to be able to suddenly see the world in a deeper, more full way? There's a line in Lecha Dodi, it's, I believe, the third verse we're going to sing, where we sing, Hit orari, wake up. Right? Shabbat is thought about as this day of rest and relaxation, and it is, but it's not the day of unconsciousness. It's the day of waking up our heart, waking up our minds. Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. 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 שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשמו תפארת ונתינה. לך דודי דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת מקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת מקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, והראש בגד משוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת מקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת מקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באור קומי אורי, אורי אורי שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת מקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת מקבלה. בואי בשלום העטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצורה, תוך אמוניה סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת מקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת מקבלה. לך דודי דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת מקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת מקבלה.
Even as we come together on Shabbat to celebrate and to sing and to open our hearts, we also can come with a heaviness, we can come with a sense of loss. And if that is what you're holding as you're coming here for services, whether that's to say a yahrzeit to honor your connection to your loved one, we say to you, Hamakom Yenachem Etchem, may the Holy One comfort you. And may you find this feeling of connection and comfort in our song and prayer this evening. We transition into the main body of our service with Chatzi Kaddish. Yitkata ve'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'amad yivrach yerutei v'yamnich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei decho be'Yisrael, bagala bagala uv'izman kari, ve'imeru amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevorach, le'olam u'me'omaya yitbarach, yitbarach ve'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalav, shemei dekudesha brechu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, Damiran B'yama Ve'imeru Amen. Please stand for the Baruch Hu.
That we all may rise. A prayer for these days by Stacy Zizuk Robinson of blessed memory. God of hidden things, unseen art, unheard notes, unfelt touch, God of fear and hope and weary, worried hearts, hear my questions and cries. The world is heavy now, and the light arcs through a glass so darkly. My soul wanders, weighted and alone. Lift me, help me rise and see. Help me rise and hear. Help me rise and feel. So that hope conquers fear, so that my weary, worried heart opens and pours forth love like water, like wine. Comfort me that I may comfort those who suffer and sigh. See me that my eyes are open to the world around me. Lift me that we all may rise. Please be seated. אהבת עולם בן ישראל עמך אהבת תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו באורך ימינו ובהם נהגה יומם ולילה יומם ולילה ועבדך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל.
The very center of our prayer service is the Shema, where Moses is saying to the people of Israel the reality of God as one presence that fills all of creation, including us. Shema is listen. It means bring your attention here. I want to invite you before we say Shema to take a couple of deep breaths. And with every exhale, bring your attention more here and now, more able to listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart to the presence that fills all of us. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Pleasure to invite Maya Crane to unmute and lead us in the Ve'ahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. Beautiful. Thank you, Maya. So every Thursday evening on Facebook, I share 2 minutes of Torah, or 3 minutes, maybe sometimes 4. And those messages also are on our website as far as the clergy messages. And there was a wonderful midrash that I shared this week that I want to offer up as preparation for singing Mi Chamocha, which the children of Israel sang on the shore of the Red Sea. And the 7th day of Passover tonight is also commemorating that moment at the shore of the Red Sea. And we know that it's really popular moment because Miriam, after they make it through the sea and the Egyptians are washed away and drowned, she picks up her timbrel and she and the women lead the entire Israelite community in song. And it's this incredible experience of joy. And the Midrash asks, where did they get the drums? Where did they get the timbrels? They were slaves. Did they really have time on the evening of Passover when we know that they had to rush? They couldn't even have their bread rise. They had to bring matzah. How did they make drums and timbrels? And was, they certainly didn't have it as slaves, have any time for that. And the rabbis say that Miriam and the women, remember Miriam was a prophetess, that they could see, even as Moses was arguing with Pharaoh and the plagues were starting, they had that vision of the redemption. They knew, even though there was so much uncertainty, even though there was so much fear, they were able to sense that this was going to happen, that this was going to happen. And they started to make those instruments, and they started to make it so that it would be ready and they would be able to bring that out, so that they knew that they would sing Mi Chamocha on the shores of the Red Sea. And this is really instructive as we are moving into these last days of Passover, which is there is so much uncertainty. There's so much bondage in the world. There's so much that needs fixing. And yet, can we still make our instruments? Can we still sing? Can we believe that the spirit of goodness, the spirit of connection, the spirit of God is present in the long arc of history. And we can make those drums. We can sing now because that great redemption is happening and will continue to happen. So I want to invite us as we sing Mi Chamocha, and even though you're muted on your Zoom, you are not muted in your homes, in your hearts, and sing out with that belief and that faith that we are headed to better places.
Who is like you? Who is like you? Who is like you? Adonai. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha נעדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אליהם. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נעדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אליהם. Who is like you? Who is like you? Who is like you? Adonai. Who is like you? Who is like you? Who is like you? Adonai. מלכותך ראו בניך בוקעים לפני משה ומרים, זה לי אנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. Who is like you? Adonai. Who is like you? Who is like you? Who is like you? Adonai. Baruch atah Adonai Gaal Yisrael.
Amen. Ufros aleinu Sukkot, Sukkot, Shelomecha, Ufros aleinu Sukkot, Sukkot, Shelomecha. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
ושמרו לישראל את השבת, את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש.
In a moment, we're going to enter into our Amidah prayer, which is, we're going to start out doing the first three blessings together, and then it's an opportunity for your own silent prayer. And being that this is the seventh day of Passover, the Amidah liturgy is special. It's different than it is on Shabbat. And you'll see that the first three blessings and the last three blessings are the same. They're always the same. They're about opening up to ancestors, opening up to God's power, healing and renewing, and God and the holiness in the world. And then they conclude with giving thanks for this ability to pray, gratitude, and peace. But you'll see in the middle the special liturgy for the holiday. So we'll start out with this kavanah that asks God for God's voice to come through us, and then the Amidah. If you're able to stand, it's customary to stand during this prayer.
Adonai Sfatai Tiftach, Adonai Sfatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagid Tilatecha, Ufi Yagid Tilatecha. Adonai Sfatai Tiftach, Adonai Sfatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagid Tilatecha, Ufi Yagid Tilatecha.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, וזוכר חסדי אבות, ומביא גואל לפני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מקלקל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בגבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמנתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יעללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. You can continue silently with the rest of the liturgy.
אם בין אני ליבי לי, וכשאני לעצמי מה אני, ואם לא עכשיו, מתי, מתי בכל דור ודור חייב אדם לראות את עצמו כאילו הוא יצא ממצרים, יצא ממצרים. אם אין אני ליבי לי, וכשאני לעצמי מה אני, ואם לא עכשיו, מתי, מתי.
Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach. Judaism is ultimately concerned with action, the choices we make and what we do in the world. The core essence of what it means to be a Jew is not food, the hora, or worry. It's mitzvah, translated as commandment, or from the Aramaic tzavta, an action that connects us. Many people translate mitzvah as a good deed. It's the action that is ultimately important, whether we feel like it or not. Tzedakah, giving charity, comes from the word tzedek, justice, which implies that we don't give of our resources because it feels good. We do it because it's the right thing, the just thing to do. However, a mitzvah is only something, while a mitzvah is only something that happens between, it's not only something that happens between people. It can also be an action that directs us to an inner experience or an inner awareness. Our sages teach that there are two categories of mitzvot. Mitzvot adam lechavero, between a person and his fellow, or mitzvot ben adam lemakom, between a person and God. Another way of understanding this is that there are mitzvot that are ethical deeds and mitzvot that are ritual deeds. Ethical mitzvot include interpersonal relationships among family and friends, behavior in commerce and business, how we relate to the government of the land, issues of law and justice, among others. Ritual mitzvot include observance of Shabbat and holidays, Torah study, dietary laws, meditation and prayer, as well as belief in the existence of the oneness of God and the prohibition against idol worship. While our sages taught these two categories, they believed that each one affected the other. My attention to my inner experience and awareness through ritual mitzvot is necessary so that I will not only be inspired to do ethical mitzvot, but so that the ways that I act towards other people is based on a clear perception and more skillful. The problem that our ancient texts acknowledge is that we are our own worst enemy. Even when we have the best of intentions to do good in the world, our Yetzer Hara, our evil inclination, will create elaborate reasoning as to why our way is the right way and how the other is not like us. Or our Yetzer Hara will provide reasons why the situation that needs addressing is hopeless, or justify our turning away from other people's suffering. If we want to engage our Jewish tradition in a way that it's intended, we don't just choose to put our focus on spiritual matters and also consider how we bring good to the world through our actions. And we don't engage only with ethical mitzvot and not spend time for inner attention and reflection that our ritual mitzvot intend. So as we find ourselves in these culminating days of the Passover holiday, we are invited into a ritual observance that links inner reflection on the development of our own character with ways that we act and move in the world. On the second day of Pesach, we began the counting of the Omer, a daily opportunity for greater understanding of ourselves during the 49 days between Passover and Shavuot. Now, while the counting of the Omer is mentioned in the Torah as an agricultural ritual practice connected to a prosperous wheat harvest on Shavuot, its time has transformed the counting into a time of personal reflection. It's also the period that corresponds to the Exodus story of the journey of the Israelites from leaving Egypt to reaching Mount Sinai, where they received the Torah. Where there was a more direct passage from Egypt to Sinai, God, through Moses, led them in a circuitous route so that they would have time to shed the slave mentality that was needed to receive Torah at Mount Sinai. The saying goes that while God took the Jews out of slavery, God couldn't take slavery out of the Jews. We need to do that ourselves, and the Omer period is the opportunity to do that. On the second day of Passover, we led a joint prayer service, morning prayer service with Ner Tamid Synagogue in Poway, with our friend and former TBE SOC rabbinic intern Rabbi Sammy Seid. Rabbi Sammy brought our attention to the section in the Torah where it says that the counting of the Omer begins on the day after the Shabbat. As you can imagine, this prompts lengthy discussion among our sages. What is the Shabbat? Is it any Shabbat? Is it the Shabbat after Pesach? Ultimately, it's understood as that the first day of Passover is the Shabbat, and it is called that to suggest that Shabbat is not just the period of time between Friday night and Saturday night, as we usually think about it, but instead Shabbat is any time that we cease from our human doing and embody our nature as a human being. While we are engaged in doing, our action is based on a certain mindset that we are holding about what needs to be done. And so our action is connected to the picture in our minds of reality and what needs to happen, not necessarily reflective of the people actually in front of us or the inner reality that's happening inside of us. When we create a space to stop, to be, and to pay attention to what is around us and inside of us, our picture of how to move forward becomes more attuned to the reality we are living in. Shabbat and any ritual mitzvot that invite us to stop and be present with what is inside us and around us are necessary for our ethical mitzvot to have real impact and bring people together instead of divide. The counting of the Omer begins that day after this broader understanding of Shabbat to teach us that we need to stop and reflect so that we can move forward with real intention and thoughtfulness. While the practice of counting the Omer is literally a reciting of a blessing and the counting of the day each night between Passover and Shavuot, this observance, as it's been developed over the years, invites us to focus in on a certain aspect of our character and how we might want to improve or refine it. This past week, the first week of Passover, is all about love and all the different shades of how we live love in our lives. At the beginning of the week, we focused on unconditional love. In what circumstances is it not appropriate to hold back and have conditions? When do we need to just give without boundaries? And then another day invites us to focus on where the boundaries are in love and how they operate in us. One day this week invited us to reflect upon how we manifest and express love in our lives in concrete ways, while another day turned our attention to how we receive love. Tonight, the focus of the Omer is about how love is expressed in our relationships with reciprocal giving and receiving. In what relationships and parts of our lives is there a mutual sharing of love where it doesn't feel lopsided? And what can we do to create more of that mutuality? Next week, the focus of the Omer will be on boundaries, discernment, and judgment, and all the different shades and expressions. Another week, compassion, another week, creativity, and so on. Some of the easiest ways to engage with this Omer practice is to download an app, right? Go to your app store on your Android or your iPhone and type in Omer. Download a few apps and try them out. They will give you reminders to count and to offer a reflection for each day. So this practice of counting the Omer is the journey. All of us are journeying together from Egypt to Mount Sinai. We do this every year. We really do this every moment of our lives. But this period of 49 days is this day to do it with intention, to do it with a way of asking the question, how do we connect more deeper? How do we get a greater understanding? And what's most important, that like the Israelites journeying to Sinai, that we do this together. Shabbat Shalom.
Yasher Koach, Rabbi.
At this moment, we have the opportunity for a Misha Berach prayer to bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, with a complete healing, with a healing of wholeness. And it really pains me. Oh, sorry, before we do the Misha Berach, we're going to actually count the Omer together. So the saying, as you can see, there's an intention. Behold, I'm prepared and ready to perform the mitzvah of counting the Omer. And we'll skip down here to the blessing. I invite you to say it with me. If you'd like, you can stand and kind of give it some real intention, and then we'll count the day together. So together, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Asher Kirishanu B'mitzvotav V'tzivanu Al Sfirat HaOmer. Hayom Shisha Yamim LaOmer. Today is the 6th day of the Omer. It's that simple. And those different apps and different Omer counters will help give a little bit more flavor as to the focus of the day. Now we turn to some blessings for healing. And it pains me that we had another shooting this week right here close in Orange County, and other families that are mourning and that are in need of healing for loss of their loved ones. The third one, first Atlanta, then Boulder, then here in Orange County in the last few weeks. And our hearts go out to those families that are grieving, that are trying to make sense of this loss. And it's really important that as we are praying for healing for others, we are also asking ourselves, how can we be a healing presence? How can we be a healing presence to those in our lives? And how do we be a healing presence in some way to address this issue of death and destruction through gun violence? We're commanded in the Torah not to stand idly by. What does that mean for each one of us? How do we not stand idly by? So that's a question for reflection as we bring our hearts to healing. You can go ahead and feel free to put names of people that you'd like to include in our healing prayer and blessing in the chat.
Avotenu Makor Bracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Bisheberach imotenu makor bracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. We have a lot of exciting things coming up in our community. You might see some folks with a virtual backdrop for our upcoming gala in May. So it's time to register. Our gala is on May 1st. You don't even have to leave your house to attend. Pants are optional. We will take you on a Zoom trip down memory lane, sharing lots of laughs, memories, and a few tears. The price is only $40 per household. This is awesome. A way to celebrate our 40 years here at TBE. This is our largest fundraiser of the year, so please be generous by donating more and or becoming a sponsor. You can place an ad in our tribute book or program, and celebrate our journey and each other from the past 40 years. It's going to be an amazing evening. I am very excited to welcome the Shul Sisters for our Kol HaNeshama Music Connections this month. This cantorial folk trio has 3 very talented young women who happen to also be dear friends of mine. I feel very fortunate that I get to share all of these amazing people with our community. Cantor Rachel Brook, Cantor Rachel Goldman, and Lori Akers, who is studying to become a cantor and is an incredible composer as well. And finally,
Pathfinders. Can you hear the buzz about Pathfinders? This is really the thing to be doing. I sent out an email this week inviting all of our members to engage in the Pathfinder process. And even if you're not a member, it's really an opportunity to really develop your own unique and authentic real connection with Temple Beth El in a way that's right for you. The registrations are rolling in for it. So I hope that you will be able to include yourself in this experience. April 20th. Please stand as we conclude our service with Aleinu. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer reshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, vanachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו echad. We now turn to moments of memory. This week, Jeff Petty's mother, Janice Petty, passed. We'll be burying her on Tuesday. And so the Shiva period doesn't begin yet, but if you would like to tune in and support the Petty family, on our website, the funeral and the Shiva information is there. We're also commemorating we're in the 30-day period for Dan Sherman, the father of our member, Deborah Whaley, and Bila Bender, our member and wife of our mother, Michael Bender. We're also commemorating the following yard sites: Bernice Bloom, Irma Borman, Howard Bolleton, Harriet Bosch, Samuel Chabinsky, Betty Cooper, James Forrest, Leah Friedman, Morris Friedman, Saul Gale, Morris Glass, Esther Greenberg, Jay Gusovsky, Musa Hekmat Rabban, Linda Patricia Holcomb, Sarah Jacobs, Matthew Jankowski, Donald Jones, Zivar Kalai, Julius Kaplan, Elizabeth Katz, Rita Kaufman, Leah Kesselman, Marion Land, Jeffrey Levitt, Harold Leibovitz, Louis Jacob Levinson, Sally Levin, Suzanne Goldberg-Lowe, Bronnie Markovitz, Burton Mendelson, Laura Naiman, Clara Nathan, Yetta Rappaport, Austin Reingold, Sharon Sachs, Anna Wendruck, and Bertold Wiener. If there's anybody else that we're saying Kaddish for today, please put their name in the chat and we'll include them in our prayer. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah, Ve'alma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'galau v'zman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam olmei olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudisha b'richu, le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, Tush v'chata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing.
To a land that I will show you. Lech lecha, to a place you do not know. Lech ilach, on your journey I will bless you. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lech ilach, and I shall make your name great. Lech lecha, and all shall praise your name. Lech ilach, to a place that I will show you. Lesimchat chayim, lesimchat chayim, lesimchat chayim, lech ilach. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lech ilach.
If you have a cup of wine or juice, invite you to join me making a special Kiddush blessing for the festival for Passover. It has a little different nusach, a little different melody than the one that we usually sing for Shabbat. So go with it, and hopefully you can feel the joy that is in the melody. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol am, v'romemanu mikol lashon, v'kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav, v'titen lanu Adonai Eloheinu, behava shabbatot lemenucha u'moadim lesimcha, chagim uzmanim lesason, et yom hashabbat hazeh, et yom chag hamatzot hazeh. Zman simchatenu mikra kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'charta ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat moadei kodshecha, be'ava uvratzon, v'simcha uvsatzon himchatanu, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh hashabbat v'Yisrael, v'hazmanim. Jason and Jennifer Henderson, let's see your challah. Hold it up, unmute yourself, and lead us.
Matzah.
Your
We have
matzah.
our matzah challah, right? Are you ready?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lehem min haaretz. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. That was wonderful. Thank
Your
you.
goodness. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
One